Is this thing on?
I can never get enough volume.
Can never get enough volume. Want a special shout out to the Bible Missionary listeners that we've been having lately. I thank you all for listening. Glad you all,
I didn't know if you were going to do that or not.
glad you all tuned in.
Yes, thank you for listening. Every little bit of listeners that we get, it goes to support this podcast. We appreciate it.
Click the download button.
Haters, get us for sponsoring us. Thank you so much.
Tell little Dan we said howdy.
Yes. If you have any questions, just feel free to call 304. No, okay.
Oh man, what's going on, Miss? You got Squeak Box over here with you.
I do have Squeak
He's
Box
actually
with me.
behaving. We got Kane and Mariah back. This is the part 2 that we talked about.
Yep.
And we've got a guest. Actually, she reached out to me and she was like, I should be a part of this.
Yes, I love it. And then we got a bunch of messages too from other people that were
we
listening,
did.
and they're giving us their stories. So if you listen to this and you would like to give your side of the story, go ahead. Just keep sending us your messages, and we'll
we
mention
do have
them. We'll keep you anonymous if that's what you want. Until then, yeah, send us your messages.
We do have some comments and stuff to read as well. We got LaDonna Covert on. I think you've been listening for a good little while now, right?
Yeah, I have. Since you had Natalie on, that was my first listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hijacked a lot of Natalie's listeners. At least we
Shout out
tried.
to Natalie at the Berean Holiness. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We support her. She's supporting us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, shout out to old Natalie.
Yes.
And Don Van Zandt as well. That's I
Yes.
was going to play that intro.
Oh,
he
you have to do it next
he
time.
tagged us the other day, and I'll have to play it next time. I don't have it pulled up.
Give his podcast a shout out.
Oh yeah, he's getting ready to start back up the Lost Mission podcast.
Yes.
Don Van Zandt does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So we might as well just jump back into it. Why don't we leave the comments maybe till later on, because LaDonna
that's
was just
fine.
getting into this story.
Yes.
And I had to stop everything and hit that theme song so we could get it kicked off. So I kind of want you to, LaDonna, I want you to jump back in and just kind of tell us your little situation there.
Okay, so I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's a desert land in more ways than one. It's, of course, desert landscape, but as far as the holiness churches go, there's several of them, but they're very small. And so one of them had a Christian school, and that's where I was going to school at the time. But it was going to be my senior year in the fall of 1986, and I really wanted to have a graduating class. I was going to be the only senior if I stayed in Phoenix. And so I asked my parents if I could go to the Bible College in Indiana, because I had some friends that had moved from our church in Phoenix and moved there. And so they decided that yes, I could go. Well, in the meantime, I went to a camp meeting, a youth camp in Indiana that summer, and I went over and took a tour of the school and applied to be a work student so that my parents wouldn't have to pay the whole bill. I could apply and do some work. And so I was taking a tour and met some of the kids that were there, also work students staying for the summer. So that was in June. In July, I fly back to India. I go home and then fly back and move into the dorm. At the time, because everybody was not there, they just housed all the girls in the college girls' dorm. And so first day on campus, I meet another girl that I knew from Clinton Camp, actually. Popular
right.
last name there was
Good Lord.
So,
It's hard to, I'll bleep the name out. Who was it? I feel like
she later married who she met at.
Yeah, I know
the
her.
name, Ken.
Yeah.
I don't.
She
But I'm not.
went to the
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So anyway, so she and I reconnected from our days at Clinton Camp, and we're standing outside. I grew up with the youth group at my church in Phoenix was 13 to 40. That was the age So
Wait a minute.
we had
The youth group. The youth group was
ages 13 to 40, which means my parents.
What?
My parents,
Oh,
my parents
my.
were in my youth group. People,
Listen, you do
my
whatever you
parents
got to
were
do
in
to
my youth
adjust
group.
them numbers. You know?
Yeah, I want to be part of that youth group.
Yeah. So when I get to school there's all kinds of young people, and I'm just so excited. I'm 17 years old. I'm 1,800 miles from home, and I've got one friend so far in Cheryl, and we're standing outside and we're talking to these guys that are also work students who are there for the summer and just trying to make friends. And the RA writes us up, gets us in trouble
Holy cow.
because we're talking to boys.
Wait.
Oh,
Okay.
my.
How dare you?
Like, so let me ask this: how was that a writable offense? Did you sign a paper stating that you wouldn't talk to boys? Is that
No, I had not. I
Okay.
was just there. And so I hadn't seen a handbook. I hadn't seen anything like that. And when I got, and it was broad daylight, it was on a corner, right where traffic was going by. And I don't know if it's because she and I were sitting on a split rail fence and it was seductive. I have no idea.
Oh my! You know, them fences are so seductive.
Them fences are killers.
It was probably the sheen of my pantyhose. I
That you were forced to
But-
wear.
don't know. Yes.
Right.
But
Jeez.
evidently you're supposed to have one more girl than boy or one more boy than
Yeah.
girl in the group.
Yeah.
And it was an even number. And so that
Oh, my.
got us in trouble.
Oh,
Wow.
You know, because you could always gang up on each other.
Right. And it was the first day of it wasn't even school. It was summer. It was a work
That's so
program type thing. So
Wow.
Oh, Lord.
that was my introduction to
Rules.
Conservative Bible School. So,
Wow.
and it just went downhill from there, people. I'm just saying it went downhill from there.
You never know. You start off. You got people talking, and next thing you know, you got a brothel over on the different girls' dorm. You know, it's a slippery slope on that.
See, it all started when she was standing on the corner.
Yes. And I wasn't even in Winslow, Arizona.
Oh my goodness.
So they just. I mean, what did somebody come scurrying out of the registrar's office or whatever, and hey, what are you doing over there?
It was the RA. Later, she came up and handed the slips to the other girl and I, and told us that we were getting written up, and that you cannot talk to boys in just equal number, and that couldn't happen going forward. So,
Oh, jeez.
fast forward to later on in the summer before school started, and they used to put out a periodical, and they needed all the kids to gather together and kind of assemble it down in the dining hall. And I had seen this guy sitting on a bench talking to a girl, and they were outside in public, and I was trying to figure out how that was okay. But it was the RA. It was the RA that had written me up. And anyway,
The plot
I
thickens.
had ordered a pizza from the local pizza shop down the street, and I was walking by carrying it in, and I'm just walking past, and this guy is looking at me, and I'm thinking he's probably starving to death. And I just looked at him and I said, "Eat your heart out." And
That's incredible.
he looked at me, and I kept walking, and evidently later on I find out he leaned past this girl to watch me walk away. And this girl says, "Do you like what you're looking at?" And he said, "Well, yes, actually I do." So he was actually breaking up with her at that time, and I had no idea.
My goodness. I love this so much.
Would this have been
Yeah.
Rex or Scott by any chance?
No, the guy is now my husband.
Good for him. Yes.
That is great. I love
That
that.
is awesome. That is
Yeah.
As a
awesome.
matter of fact, I do.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome.
So
Oh, my.
to go back before we started the show, that RA that he was breaking up with is the pastor's wife that we were discussing.
Oh, man. Yikes.
Oh, what a twist of events right there.
I love
I hope
it.
somebody from Netflix is watching. This should be awesome
Yes,
right
this
now.
is a good story. This is a Nicholas
Yes.
Sparks book, if I ever heard one.
Yeah,
so awesome.
she was actually the one who wrote me up for the Talking to the Boys. So she and I did not start off on the greatest of feet.
I would imagine
Oh,
not.
my.
Or ended.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No,
Oh.
no, or ended. Yeah.
I just
That's
love it.
funny.
Do you like what you see? Why, yes, ma'am, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Oh, man, that is
That is
great.
so awesome.
That is great. So that was like your introduction to being
Yeah.
a Bible school
Yeah.
student there at this college.
Right. And I got written up and dormed, which dormed means you were relegated to your room and couldn't leave your dorm.
Uh-huh.
I got campused multiple times, which means
Oh.
you couldn't go to the store, you couldn't leave campus or whatever.
What?
And most of the time it was because after I started dating my husband, they couldn't do anything to him because he was technically off campus. So they would punish him by punishing me. And so,
Are you serious?
yes, I'm serious. Even though he lived right behind my dorm, he lived with his cousin who was a professor at the school, but he wasn't technically on campus. Which when it first started, he went to the dean of men. He's like, okay, you've got to make up your mind. Am I on campus or am I off campus? Because you can't be switching back and forth, getting me in trouble or not getting me in trouble.
Son of a
Right.
gun.
Yeah.
So because the rules were different for kids that lived on campus than they were for the ones who lived off campus and just drove into school.
Right.
Yeah, like at BMI too. It was like that too.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I want to know. So if they confined you to your dorm, and apparently we've had some people write in, I've heard from a couple different people that this is like a common practice on not just CHM Bible colleges, but also like, the Tongues Holiness Bible colleges.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So my question is like, I guess maybe this is not good of me, but when somebody does something like that, my immediate wonder is like, or what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like
Yeah.
you're trying to tell me to go. So what was the punishment like if you were like, I ain't staying in my room?
Yeah.
What did
Yeah.
they do?
Well, I mean, you didn't have to stay in your room. You just had to stay in the dorm. So I could go to someone else's room and chit chat, or I could go to the parlor, the front room where they had couches and games and puzzles and stuff. You could do that.
You just had to stay on your cell block.
You just had to stay in your, you just had to stay in your prison. But yeah.
Wow.
What if you like being outside like me? You know, like I like to be outside. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, what if you went outside? Like, what would they do then? Would they like expel you or have a stern talking to or what?
I don't know. I probably left just in time before I found that out.
You never got officially kicked out like I did.
No,
Oh.
I left. I said it was because I didn't have the money to pay the bill, but really it was just because it just got to be too much.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so one of the ways that I know that people would get around those things is you just distract. You get a friend like a wingman and you
Uh-huh.
distract the night guard or whatever, because there was a back door to the dorm and a front door to the dorm. So you your wingman calls the guy to the front door and you slip out the back door. And yeah, so
Why am I getting like deja vu or something? We never even went to Bible college.
Yeah, that is something. If you two were to go to
That's so
Bible
much
school,
fun.
yes, you go to Bible school. That is
mean-
both of you.
Yeah, like that big old dude up there on Clinton Camp. Remember that big old guy used to ride that golf cart?
Oh yeah.
Did you guys call him the ape?
Well, I didn't give him that name. Good Lord, I would never do anything like that.
Who gave him the
He gave
name?
himself that name.
He did. But yeah, we'd use all kind. You'd learn the tactics, where you could get away with
Yeah,
some,
you would.
some
You
crap.
would. Pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, John meowing at it.
Oh man!
By the way, that camp just wrapped up. Can you believe it's been a year since we were ragging on them?
Oh my! I can't. That's crazy. Wow.
Yep.
Yep, it just wound up.
I wondered if I'd love to know what the attendance is like up there anymore.
Very low.
I
The
think I
pictures
heard-
I've seen, it looks terrible.
Yeah. Last time I checked, it is low.
Last year,
200,
I think
wasn't
their
it?
top
200,
number was
300?
like 230.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it was 200 to
That was
300.
like
That was
the
it.
busiest night. Well,
Good grief, that used to be in the youth tabernacle with the Victor Trio.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My mom said she can remember like 1,000 people being
Yes.
up there.
Like,
Oh
like
yeah,
the last service.
I have pictures of the children's service, and the platform was crammed with kids.
Gee
Wow.
whiz.
Man.
That's
Yeah.
too many holiness people in one setting for me.
Mariah likes to take her holiness people in small doses.
I told my friend that next year at IHC time, I'm going to set up a lemonade stand outside across from the Gatlinburg Convention Center. Just people watch.
Can we
Yes.
can we like buy some advertising on your lemonade
Yes.
stand?
Oh yes, please.
Yes.
You guys need to come and set up a
Oh.
local podcast across the street.
Oh my,
Cannon, we
They-
need to seriously think about this now.
dude! I would think about it. I'll tell you, dude. We would, dude. They wouldn't even let us set up a booth. We'd have to be sitting outside.
See, that's the thing too. Phil was getting messages from a guy from Clinton asking if he was going up there. We're like, yeah, no.
Have you not heard the podcast, dude?
I thought there was a posted restraining order on the front gate.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh
thinking.
yeah. Oh yeah.
The Clinton camp security guards have a warrant out for our arrest.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely are not allowed to stay on campus
Crime.
for sure.
They got them little fuzzy handcuffs, don't they?
Oh, Kanan.
Canon Warren.
My goodness. Oh, no.
No, we do need to find us an insider, though.
We do.
Somebody can report from on the ground inside of
If you would like to be our spy, please call us
we need
at
a double agent, dang it. We need to turn
Absolutely.
somebody in there.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you though, seriously, from the people that I heard that were granted booth space this last year, I really would be curious to what they would say if you asked. And I told Natalie she should ask too, because
Absolutely.
Oh, she should.
Yeah,
there's
for
some
sure.
friends that I have that they set up a booth, and I said, I've seen your stuff you sell at the local flea market. Are you taking all that stuff to IHC? And she said, oh, no, we have adjusted our inventory. But I think that you should be able to just at least reach out and see what they would say.
We should just for kicks and giggles. I mean, me.
And if not, just come join my lemonade stand across the street.
yes.
There you go.
We call
There
it
you
the
go.
outcast.
Shop out there.
Me and you could slick our hair back and put on black suits. We might have to. I think we could get by without shaving. But
I think we could.
Yeah.
We may need to trim up.
We could set up at the moonshine shop down the street.
I'm in. So
I love the way you think.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I am always in.
Thought about it. I'm in.
There's some people I'm friendly with that was there this year, and I remember asking them about whenever Dan Stetler did his thing up there, and about brought the stage down, man. So I messaged him right off the bat because I know they don't like buy into it. But I'll have to ask them about it because they don't buy into the whole thing, but they attend a lot of these.
Right.
And
Is this your buddy?
cousins of mine.
Yeah.
There's some cousins of mine that go there. And I remember I texted them or something while this was going on. I was like, what was it like in there? And I was like, yeah, it was a little tense.
Exactly.
Tension in the air.
Exactly.
Oh
Oh my gracious.
So let me see. So LaDonna, are we saying what Bible college this was? I don't remember if we said the name of it or not. Are
She
we
just said in Indiana.
in Indiana? Okay, so we'll
I already
Pretty clear.
I said BMI, so
you said BMI.
I mean,
Well,
we could leave it out. We can put it in. I don't care either way. Up to you guys.
can I give you something interesting I just heard from that Bible college not too long ago? Was the college president, seems to be a very nice guy, That's I'm not like
Right.
poking at him
Right.
personally. I'm just
I
saying.
understand.
They had a question and answer session, and they had a video of it, and they were asking questions we've all asked.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a lot of the people that were attending there were asking these same questions, why can we not have a beard? Why? I forget if women's clothes come up or whatever it was, but he was basically the response was, this is kind of like holiness boot camp, and this is just what we've decided to do. And yes, you can be a Christian and have a beard, but not here.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing that my husband. So there's a whole story about his sideburns. If you want to hear that story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tell
I
us
do.
about sideburns.
Okay, so I left at the end of the first semester, and he stayed, and he shouldn't have stayed, but he went back, and his whole world fell apart.
Aw.
And he ended up breaking up with me, but he was just going through a whole lot of stuff. And he, in his rebellion, he wasn't wearing suits to class, and
How dare
he was
you.
wearing a suit jacket, but he was wearing jeans. And then his sideburns got a little bit too long, and so they were chasing him around campus, trying to find him. And he would duck into a building, or he would, go over here or whatever.
Oh my goodness.
They got a pair of clippers just running after.
And
Yes.
so they ended up sending him a note in his student mailbox, whatever. You need to cut your sideburns because. And here's the deal. Camp meeting is coming, and we have to make a good impression because you got all these people coming in. So during camp meeting, the girls were not allowed to wear jean skirts. The boys were not allowed to wear jeans. You couldn't, and you had to have your hair presentable, and everything you had to clean the campus. Everything had to look like everything. Like he didn't live here, basically.
Right.
So,
Wow.
and he needed to cut his sideburns before camp meeting came because he was going to be an usher for the offering, and he had to have regulation sideburns, like literally sticking a finger in your ear, and if it went past this point, you can't have it. So,
Wow.
so he ignored it because he's such a godly man. But he ignored the warnings, and anyways, he had a meeting with the president, who is one of my all-time favorite people of the whole wide world. But he took notice of this guy's sideburns, the president of the school, and he went home and he cut his sideburns to the same length as his. And so the dean of men saw him, and he's like, "You need to cut your sideburns." And my husband said, "I did." And he said, "They're too long." And my husband said, "Well, then I guess you need to go to approach brother so-and-so because they're the same length as his." And he didn't have to cut his sideburns any higher. So it's just this whole really, my husband was going through the worst time in his life. He was failing every class. He'd gone from being A's and B's to failing every class. He ended that school year with 3 F's and an incomplete.
Wow.
Or 4 F's and an incomplete. And only one teacher asked him, "Is everything okay with you?"
Oh, my Lord.
Oh.
And it was so foreign to the year before, where we had a 3-week-long revival on campus that was the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my life, where teachers were actually concerned about their students. There would be testimony times in class. There would be prayer services we would do away with the class time, and we were just praying with somebody. People were getting saved that had come to school that their parents were sending them, probably like Canaan, rebellious and all that stuff.
You rebel.
Their parents sent them to school, and they got saved. We were having all night prayer meetings in the prayer chapel, and And Dr. Noel Scott, I don't know if you guys know him,
I
but
remember that.
he
Yes, I remember the name.
preached. He preached. He was the original evangelist slated for the revival that was only supposed to be a week long, but it went over, and he stayed as long as he could until he had to get to his next meeting, and then they brought in Brother Keaton, and he finished it, and it lasted 3 weeks, and it was amazing. But just the next year, it was like a completely different place. They only wanted to worry about academics. They only wanted to worry about appearances. Nobody was asking what was going on. I mean, it was just so heartbreaking. And so the fact that when you said the president was like, this is a holiness boot camp, to me, because I have a son in the Army, what boot camp is about is breaking you and
your will,
and then reshaping you into what they want you to be.
Bingo.
Yeah. Breaking you for Jesus.
Breaking you down for Jesus. Man.
Oh, have mercy. Well, and you talked about there was only one teacher that actually, talked to your husband. That is still going on even as of recent, because I've got friends that have went there. I've got family that's actually there now. And I've got friends that told me that when they were there was people that struggled with porn addiction, alcoholism, depression, and there was no one to talk about those things. There was no one that asked them if they were doing okay. And it's so many, just a lot of awful things. I can't go into too much detail, but then they have later on, I think this was even as recent, some of those students that had, came back around and has done well spiritually, went to the staff of, sorry, I might have to buzz that out.
No, I got you.
They went back to them and they said, hey, would it be okay if we came in and talked to some of these students and just told them that, some of our struggles and what we struggled with and, and try to help these students. And the staff was like, no, we don't think that'd be a good idea. That's just something, no, we just need to leave that alone. And it's like real problems, and your student, and you're just going to let this, the students just won't get the help that they need. And it's awful. So it hasn't changed any. And that's very unfortunate.
So I'm taking you back 35 years, which none of you were born then, I'm sure. But so 35 years ago when I was there, this kind of thing happened. So my husband and I, because of their antiquated, is that the right word? Dating rules?
Yes.
Yeah. It sets you up for failure.
Yep.
Sexually, it sets you up for failure. So my husband and I were struggling. We weren't being sexually active. It was just, there wasn't much room for Jesus. And we had moved the Bible from between us. It scooted a little close in the car seats. So,
yeah.
So when we realized, we need to really, pray about this and confess this, and let's ask the Lord to help us. And so we went to the dean of girls at that time and said, we just want to, put ourselves out here and say, this has been our struggle, and we're apologizing that we've allowed this to happen, and just want you to know that we're apologizing and going to do better. And since we're on dating rules, we have to, we have certain responsibilities. And I got in massive trouble. Like, I got campused for a month.
Wow.
Because of our indiscretions. And so my husband said, because he's has a rebellious nature, he probably needs sanctified. He said, never again. We'll never confess anything again.
Yeah, why
ever.
would you?
I find it interesting about the sideburns thing, because I remember we were talking about the women in Bible school. The president's wife, she was up there saying, like, this is what we had to do, this, that, and another.
This is at your Bible school?
Yes, at the Bible school that in Illinois. So if your jacket was not able to be buttoned, you it's too small. Okay. You can't wear it. You can't do that half open look or whatever it was because you can't button it, right? She couldn't button her jacket.
But you guys,
But we had to,
son of a gun.
follow that rule. If we couldn't button our jacket, we couldn't wear it. So she would have an undershirt on underneath it, right? She's still modest, but it was a rule that we had to have, and she couldn't even do that herself.
Now, see,
Wow.
can I get mad here for just a little bit? You got this stuff.
Sure.
You got stuff like this here, okay? And you're talking about how you all, you and your husband, went out of, wanting to do good spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Confess to someone to try to clear your conscience and try to
be
do better.
accountable to someone. You're like, hey, we messed up. Sure, moving on. Right.
And their response is,
Freak out.
Guess we caught you now.
Yeah.
There's no regard for helping
There's no
somebody
grace.
with, there's no thought of grace. I don't think these people, I mean, for being a movement that focuses on the second work of grace, they have no idea what grace is even about.
Really is. Yes.
No, and that's what, when we left the CHM almost 16 years ago, and we found the church that we're at now, for the whole first year, I cried in church because I had never heard grace.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I was in my 40s and had not heard the message of grace. And so I spent the whole first year just sobbing every single service, every single song, just soaking in that he really does love me. He's not walking around waiting for me to screw up so he could bang me over the head and erase my name from the chalkboard.
Right.
Exactly.
And the backsliding thing was like, it's a lot harder to lose your salvation than what I was told it was.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So, but the ridiculousness of the dating set so many of our friends up that our marriage is like one of the few that have survived because people actually ended up getting married so they could get to know each other because they weren't allowed to spend any time together.
Isn't that true?
So,
yes.
Correct.
I remember
completely correct,
I was talking to my mom. There's a show called Bridgerton, and you either love it or you hate it.
I hate it.
No, you don't. You actually thought it was pretty cool.
No, it was not.
Yes, you did. You liked it. You watched it with me. No, there's a scene. There's a few scenes, that are inappropriate, whatever. But it's after they're married because they ended up falling in love with each other. They were friends first. They were like partners in crime. I remember at BMI, whenever I was there, I had a buddy that we were straight up just friends because I knew he was interested in some other girl and I was interested in someone else. And we were just friends the way it should be. Like you should get to know someone, get to know their favorite color, get to know what they like for dinner. Like how are you going to be married to someone if you cannot know them? As a person on their good days, their bad days. And so with the show, they actually got to know each other as friends first, and then they fell in love with each other. And it was actually like a very good template for how it should be for relationships.
I know that during our time there, you could talk to anybody in a group. You could, if you're hanging out at the basketball court, a boy can sit down beside you as long as they don't think you're dating. It's fine. You can hang out with whoever you want. And so some of our friends, so you actually cut yourself off by telling the dean, I want to date this person.
Right.
And they put you on dating roles.
Right.
So some of our friends would say that they wanted to date someone else, a different person, just so that they could actually hang out with the person they were interested in.
Yes,
and not get in trouble.
That's smart.
Very smooth.
Yeah, I wasn't that
good.
smart.
Well, isn't like the AWC handbook said, if there is a potential that you might be interested in that person, wasn't that one of the rules?
Yeah, you have to
there
get
is a
permission
potential.
if you think it might develop into dating. You can get
I'm
permission.
sorry. That means anybody who, okay, forgive me. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Even if you're married, okay? Even if you're married,
Oh, Lord.
there's a possibility that someone dies, you could marry them in the future. Like
Miss is thinking long term.
No, I am, because I married you with the idea we're going to be forever. So, like, why? That's terrible.
Well, I know if I would have went to a college like that,
Yep.
And I know how a dude about 17, 18, the hormones is just flying through the veins. I'd have to just be like, hey, Dean, won't you just wrap me up with every one of these women because we don't know where this is about to go.
Why don't you just put my dating rules with all of them?
Yeah, I'm going to get permission for all these.
You're going to have the book. Yeah. You're going to have a book full of all these possibilities. So,
LaDonna, where do you think because these dating rules are flat out ridiculous. I think anybody with half a brain agrees with that. Where do you think this comes from? Like, what causes this mess? Like,
well, I think one of your guests before said it, and I think it was the guy that was raised Mennonite. What was his name?
David Eicher.
Okay, he said it. The holiness movement sexualizes everything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So every relationship in the holiness movement is sexualized. So me getting in trouble that first day of school, obviously I had sexual thoughts on my mind to them. That was the whole thinking behind it, when really I was just trying to have a conversation.
Sure.
So never in my whole life do I remember the body of Christ being presented as a family of God. And these are your brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And so therefore you treat them as your brothers and sisters. And there's not a sexual thing intended here. Mm-hmm. So you are your brothers and sisters in Christ. You're my brother. If I see you out somewhere, I'm be like, hey, and give you a hug. And it has nothing to do with the fact that there's a sexual interest there.
Right.
It's the fact that you are my brother in Christ. And so when you change that focus to automatically be sexualized, there's doubt cast over your intentions in every aspect. So therefore, if you are going to be dating someone, it automatically means that you're going to be having sex with someone, and therefore we have to try to put a stop to that. But they limit your time spent together. So to do what? So you can't get to know each other to even know if this is going to work.
Right.
And so people are then forced to sneak around. So it breeds deception. And then you're forced to sneak around to just have a conversation and talk about something. So here's the way it worked 35 years ago. I have no idea. I couldn't find an online student handbook to see if it had updated. I pray it has. But the minute that you go on dating rules, you are therefore, if you are under 18, which you can go on dating rules as long as you're 16. If you're under 16, you can't date. But in high school, 16 and over, you can date, but you are limited to a 15-minute phone call each day, which that was back when we had a payphone. So I don't know how they do that now, regulating cell phones.
Yeah, good point.
Wow.
But a 15-minute phone call that was made on a payphone that's in the common area of the dorm. So 100 people walking by and you can't hear yourself think. One meal a day together, whether they prefer it to be lunch or dinner because not everybody went to breakfast and therefore you wouldn't have a whole lot of eyes watching you. So you could have one meal a day, which is 30 minutes. And then you could either walk to class together or back from class together, but you could not do both.
Are you serious? Son of a gun.
And you could not sit together in chapel or church. You had to be a knight's move away. So if you're not a chess player, you may not know what that is. But a knight's move is either one seat forward and two seats to the left or right.
Oh, my Lord,
or two seats forward and one seat to the left or right.
That is wonderful. I never heard.
Oh, my word. I'm shocked.
Wow, they're playing chess in church. Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah, so my husband preferred for me to sit behind him so he could turn around and look at my legs, but that's That's just the
ridiculous.
kind of guy he was.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Me and your husband sound like we would have got along back in the day.
Well, I know that him and your dad got along back then, but
What's that say about your dad, kid?
Yeah, oh man, dude, they were kind of crazy. That Dad and them, they always tried to make it sound like they were all perfect. But he talked about he was out to a restaurant with a couple guys, and the one guy told the waitress, he said, "Hey, this guy right here said he'd like to touch your legs." And she's like, "Excuse me?" And my dad said, "Yeah, excuse me." He's like, and Dad said he was so embarrassed. But they would just do crazy stuff like that all the time.
They did do crazy stuff. Yeah, one girl from the dorm made them X-Lax brownies, and she got in big time trouble because all those boys got sick.
Why don't I feel like I've heard that one, Kanan?
Well, we did that at our camp too.
Okay. Well, I thought there was. I thought I heard a story about somebody warned your dad not to eat those.
Probably.
They did. I think actually you're right, Phil, because I think one of the girls actually told him, said, "Stevie, you don't want these." And so
we know your condition. You can't get up the speed that's going to be required to deal with the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was very grateful to that woman.
I'm sure he was.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
If I can I want to make a quick comment about what you were just saying there, LaDonna. I think what they do, Kane and me and you talked about this many times. They do not set people up to have self-control really of any kind. And even though self-control is one of the fruits of the Spirit, instead of them teaching you how to, well, here's how you go on a normal date and act like a normal human being, and you don't go completely off the rails. Why don't we just, here's how you have self-control. They do it with all this stuff. But so, even with like when they'll preach against TV, well, there might be some bad stuff come across there. So just stay away from it completely. It's like, okay, so then your self-control muscle looks like Anderson's arms in there. There's nothing built up. There's nothing developed. And when you're hit with a situation, all of a sudden it's just, you pass out and you have no idea what to do.
Right.
Exactly right.
It sets you up for failure.
Exactly right.
So to take it a step further, when you're under 18, you can have a once a month date in the parlor of the dorm where you can sit in there and you can play games and you can. It was a parlor. It was basically a front room that had Victorian couches and a piano and that kind of thing. But people were in and out, and so you couldn't really, you can get busy at all, whatever. But if you had a lookout, you could, if you had a friend who would knock on the door 3 times, or, knock on the wall, hey, somebody's coming. So, but as soon as I turned, so in February, I had a parlor date with my boyfriend. But as soon as I turned 18, the next month, then you get a weekly 4-hour off-campus unchaperoned date.
Oh, wow.
That seems a little bit extreme from one extreme. Like
it was way too much freedom for these two kids that were crazy about each other.
Sure.
Because you could go from 6 to 10 p.m. You had to be back at the dorm at 10 p.m. All right. So let's just think this through. Holiness movement. You weren't allowed to go to the movies. You weren't allowed to go to the roller skating rink. You weren't allowed to go bowling.
So what you gonna do?
Let's see.
I'll tell you what you're going to do.
The Walmart parking lot.
I'll tell you, the mall closes at 9, and Morse Lake is just down the road from the school. So
let me tell you, there's some history in Walmart parking lots in our history.
How about you just leave it right where it's at?
Oh man!
But so from one school year to the next, they got a different dean of women, and the second school year, she came from, which was quite a bit of a liberal school.
I can imagine
for us,
Oh, yeah.
to think.
compared.
And she, when we went to her and asked her, so, are things going to change? And she said, I wish I could tell you, you should go bowling, or here's a list of approved movies like I could but she said, I really don't know what to tell you except God help you. Be careful.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to go anywhere. We went ice skating and almost got in serious trouble because they played rock music.
Oh, yeah.
And, there were certain places they didn't want you to even go eat because they served alcohol.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Been there.
You get all this, you go from having zero freedom to having a bunch of freedom, but then you come back on campus. So, you went a little bit far making out in the cornfield the night before, and then you have a 15-minute phone call and a 30-minute lunch to talk about it and say, what are we doing?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only communication you get because you're not allowed to. And I always have said, if they would swap that around and say, hey, once a month you can leave campus and maybe take another couple with you or something. But on campus, you could spend almost 24/7 together because we can watch you here.
Yeah.
Hang out at every meal, sit together in church, learn how each other worships, be involved in church together, do something together. You weren't allowed to do that.
Yep.
So, so then you're getting married because the Bible says it's better to marry than to burn, and you're on fire. So let's get married.
Right.
You're like,
just a hunk of burning love.
A hunk.
But then there was so many of our friends who, so they either end up having to get married because they got pregnant, or they get married and realize he's an abuser, so we get divorced, or they're so used to sneaking and it's developed this cheating mentality, and then they have an affair. It's just this craziness. If we could just so then my son goes to college at Lee University, which is a Church of God school down in Cleveland, Tennessee. And I'm the idiot parent that goes to orientation and says, what are the dating rules? And they all look at me like I have three eyes.
Oh.
And they said, there's no dating. They're adults now. We are counting on them to make decisions. Now, there are some ultimatums that will get you kicked out of school. Being alcohol on campus is a no-no. Sexual activity on campus is a no-no. And other than that, they want you to be together. And we would go down there to see him. And there are couples on blankets studying together. And I'm like, oh my word, what are they doing?
There's a blanket.
There's a blanket.
Right.
Yeah.
They're on campus. They could even be in the common area in the dorm. They couldn't be in your room.
Right.
But they could go in the dorm and they could hang out in the common areas, and you could hang out all day. My son was older when he went to college, and he didn't even have a curfew as a freshman, because they based it on their age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, this is so foreign to expect them to be adults. And what the president of that school said is reverse peer pressure works. And they're finding that, if this is a Christian college and you're not acting, and you're going to get kicked out, especially if you're on a sports team. Well, dude, shape up, don't mess this up.
Right.
And
exactly.
So it was a whole new ballgame for me to see a school like that, as opposed to what we had grown up under.
Sure, I can imagine.
We determined as parents when we had kids, we are not going to be sexualizing these relationships. Be friends with girls.
Mm-hmm.
Hang out with girls. Have girls come over here and hang out as friends. Treat them like your sisters, treat them with respect, and don't look at them like a sexual object.
Right.
That stuff will come, you'll grow into where, hey, I'm interested in her, but you'll already have a basis of friendship.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's just been heartbreaking to me to watch over the years as the rules haven't changed with with the culture or the times.
Right.
But my brothers-in-law and sisters-in-law, when they were going to school there, they thought our rules were so relaxed that they were freaking out because they were resorting to holding hands in the dishwater by when they had to wash dishes in the
Holy
kitchen
cow.
because that's all they were allowed. They weren't allowed to
Jeez.
go on dates.
I remember the first time
Wow.
Phil held my hand, and like how long have we been dating for?
I don't even remember now.
think it was
wasn't too long.
It wasn't too long, like 2 weeks, I think it was. But you held my hand, and I jumped like I had been shot. Like
Putting the heavy moves on.
and all it was holding hands, and that's
Traumatizing.
yes. When you're a young girl, like, you know, and I'm not bad mouthing my parents at all because they did the best that they could. But when you're not really taught about appropriate relationships, like how far is too far as a dating couple? You know what I mean? Like there's it's different for everybody. Like my mom and dad would say, yeah, we did this and we kind of messed up here and there. Okay, what does that mean? You know what I mean? In my head,
Right.
For some people, it's over there making out in the woods for a couple hours, and for other people, it's like, you know, holding hands or kissing on the front porch. Every single relationship is totally different, and we all tick differently. So that's why I think when you start making up crazy rules like that, you are totally like crippling your young people.
The more I watch these colleges and these denominations really in general, the more I feel like they just don't have it together. Like I always felt like they did. You know, they always present themselves as, you know, we are God's people. And then the more especially the farther I get away from it after leaving the movement, looking back, I'm like, you guys are just like stabbing in the dark. You have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah. They make up rules just to protect the young people, and when they're actually hurting them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, too much control will make young people rebel.
I also wonder if it is we make up rules so that we don't have to be accountable for our heart life or our thoughts.
Very good point.
Yep. Good point.
That's a very good point.
Good point. You can't legislate goodness into somebody's, you know, belief system. You know,
No.
I can make all kinds of rules, Canaan, that that you couldn't touch Mariah or be within 50 feet of her while you guys was dating, and that's still if you've got that in your heart, if that's your intent,
Yeah.
that ain't gonna help.
We found ways.
I think that, you know, it seems like it kind of goes even like outside of Bible school, in the CHM. I've got some friends and family that they're 21, you know, and they're like, well, you know, but don't want to make her dad upset or whatever, you know, don't want to make that upset. I was like, how old are you? I'm 21. It's like, then why are you worried about it? You know, like you're a grown adult, dude. I mean, and I think that almost kind of carries over into then Bible school. Is then they get to kind of tell you what to do, and the mom and dads are okay with it. Like, oh yeah, cool, yeah. This is basically a mom and dad away from home, you know?
Yeah.
It's like so,
Which is scary, which is totally scary. And that's what happens at church camp whenever we let our kids go free, because then they end up being abused because the parents are like, yeah, so-and-so will take care of them. Yeah, so-and-so's abusing them.
You're not taught to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Really nowhere in this whole system, the whole CHM system, are you taught to think for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're supposed to blindly follow.
Yes, indeed.
Well, going back to last week's podcast, when you talked about they had to get written permission from their parents for something.
To go
I think
to their
it was
house.
to go home.
Yes.
To visit someone. So I had to do that to even go home with a girlfriend. I had to get my parents had to call the dean to give her permission for me to go home with my friend for a weekend. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like
Right.
this is like I haven't left home. You know, it's just.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to control every little aspect of what you do. It is, like I say, looking back on it, it's outrageous. It's like, how did I ever buy into this setup?
I'm so glad I did not go. So glad I didn't go.
Me too.
There's times that I wish I had not gone, but honestly, if I had, I don't know. My eyes were really opened by a lot of hypocrisy by going to Bible school.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade my first year there for anything, because that's where I met my husband. And, I graduated from high school and I went to school. They had the largest freshman class in college that year. Some of the names that came out of that freshman class are big time names, not just in the CHM, but even in the Wesleyan Church and the Nazarene Church, whatever. But we made friendships that were, they're lasting. The majority of them are not conservative anymore. But I wouldn't trade my experience that first year. The second year, probably. And my husband has always regretted going back, giving into the peer pressure of, even being hounded in school. Like, why are you here? Are you going to be a preacher or a singer or a missionary or, whatever? No, I'm just here to learn more about the Bible. Well, what good is that going to do? He's like, I'm going to be the dude in the pew paying your salary. Okay.
Right. Like, heaven forbid we have a program for good laymen.
Yeah. Who are you going to preach to if I'm not the guy,
Right.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of pressure that goes into it. And I hate that because I'm the one that has never been, college isn't for everybody. Right. And so, yeah, but
absolutely,
I wouldn't trade it, because I loved my time there, and I love a lot of the people there that I met there. I wish that there was one. I don't know if you guys ever feel this. I wish that there was one person that you could go to, that you could talk to about these issues within the CHM that could bring about change. But it's like, who is that person?
I know.
Who do you talk to? How do you get the message to, and who do you get it to? It's like nailing Jell-O to a wall. You just don't know, who do you go to, and how do you bring about change? Because there isn't just one person who's in charge.
Right. They got this weird little diversified thing going on where you're right. No one person's in charge. Somebody I do like what I see from him. And if he's listening, you please consider this a compliment. And Andrew Graham,
yes,
he seems like he's trying hard.
Right, he really does.
Like he's trying hard to get some common sense pushed through there. But he even gets pushback. I mean, the people that are so Andrew Graham's not like, he's not at the top. I'll just say who it is, like Jim Plank.
Yeah,
you'll hear him responding to somebody pushing for change, and they get their feathers all ruffled.
Right.
And they're all like, well, bless God, I ain't a-changing, and they get all, snort and stomp around the stage. It's like, guys,
I've heard that so many times.
We're not in like a peeing contest here.
Right.
You can't take criticism.
Right.
This is stuff that I think would have a big impact, but they don't care. They honestly don't care. And they look at us as the enemy. So like, they would almost be sinning.
Right. You're the rebel because you have the guts to actually be questioning things. Right. You're the one I'm trying to change God doesn't change. Why do we have to change? Because we're the ones that are human. God does not change. Yes, totally get that. But but we're human, okay? Man's law is never going to be perfect. So whenever we're constantly trying to say, well, we're not changing because they did it a certain way 50 years ago. Well, if we still had that same mentality, like medicine would never be changing at all. And we wouldn't be having people trying to have pig valves, like when you have transplants and all this stuff. Like my dad wouldn't be alive if we kept practicing old medicine. I also feel like they don't actually examine the problem neither. Right.
Because they're so caught, like when you hear them respond, it's always like, well, it's worked for our holiness forefathers
for the past 50 years.
Like, that doesn't answer anything, guys.
That's not answer anything.
That's one. It might have been Andrew Graham talked about. There's Rush Limbaugh one-liners that y'all just like to throw down. You think it solves everything,
right?
It doesn't work like that.
That's correct.
Just because you got some kind of a line.
that doesn't even hold water, because the people who started the Bible college that I attended, those men, every single one of them had a beard.
That's a good
The
point.
people that started the college in Cincinnati had beards.
That's a good
And,
point.
to say that, well, it's worked for us for all these years. Well, no, it hasn't, because
It has.
it's,
That's very good.
It's
Well,
true.
And the thing of it is, too, in the 1950s, 60s, okay, I've seen pictures of skirts that were above the knee. These are women that were the founding mothers of the church. And here they are, have shorter skirts on. And then we're like, oh, no, your skirt needs to be to the floor. Like my mom was saying something about how she went to church camp, and I won't say which one it was, but she went to a church camp and all the women had maxi skirts on, like all the way to the floor. And my mom mentioned to my dad and said, is there something wrong with these men? And my dad was kind of like, what do you mean? And she said, I have a jean skirt on that is mid-calf, and I am like the odd one out because I have a short skirt on. I'm using quotation because everybody else has maxi skirts on. She said, why are we sexualizing our women? She said, this is ridiculous. Because I was reading off Natalie had posted, Brian Holiness, the dorm mom, had mentioned something about how what she came from, and like all these women are being sexualized, and then we wonder why women end up going crazy, because they actually start acting on what they are told all their lives, that their boobs are bad, their butts are bad, their hips are bad, like just their bodies in general are bad. So then we're sexualized so terribly.
Exactly right.
And then that was a really, really on point post. If you haven't read it, go read that, because it was amazing what that dorm mom said, because it's spot on.
Right, it is. And I experienced a little bit of that at the school there. Being told, well, you have to go back and change your clothes because your skirt's too tight, or go back and change your shoes because your heels are higher than 2 inches. And, so you have to do a hand check over your collarbone. And if, the split is below and you're showing any cleavage, well, I have always been super well endowed, and it starts at my throat. So I have a hard time covering some things unless I'm wearing a turtleneck. So, it's just, you're penalized then, because, and there's nothing you can do about it, because it's the body that you've been given. Right. And, so then it's your responsibility for someone else's thought life, and that isn't fair.
Right. Right.
Exactly
Why we're being women, and we are given bodies that are supposed to be attractive. That's why God made us women. If he didn't want us to be attractive, we'd be men.
Oh.
Phil. Thank you very much. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, these people's crazy. Do we want to? We've been running about an hour.
Yeah.
Do we want to start wrapping it up a little bit, or
let's read the comments that you
That's
received.
what I was thinking. Maybe we could close out reading some of these comments.
Yeah.
And LaDonna, it has been great having you on. At some point, if you'd be interested, I wouldn't mind having you back on to maybe talk more about your leaving and how you guys actually got out completely.
Oh yeah, that's a great story. I would love to tell that story sometime. Yeah,
I think that'd be,
awesome. That would be awesome. I'd like to know who all she knows that I know, because with my parents and everything, I'm sure there's a lot of.
Your husband has my phone number. You could feel free to call me, and we can discuss all that off the record. Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
A lot of discussing to go down.
Right.
All right, let's read some of the comments y'all sent in, because after the last one, our listenership shot through the roof after this. And I got to thinking about maybe the reason why I've never seen anybody do this for the holiness movement before. Now, the recovering fundamentalists, they went through one or two of the Baptist college handbooks and kind of laughed at those. But I don't think anybody's done this with the holiness movement. So maybe that's... Maybe we're one of a kind in that respect.
We are one of a kind, because how many podcasts do you see out there? I know there was one group that wanted to start doing one. It wasn't a Bible college or something, wanted to start doing a podcast.
I don't really remember.
And we were watching them, and you were like cringing the entire time we were watching it.
Imagine that, huh?
You were like, oh no, did not just say that.
I don't know whether to go ahead, LaDonna.
Did you watch any of the IHC services? I just thought it was interesting. They had like a Sports Center whole look going on where they had a couple commentators talking about the events.
Yes.
And the crowd
ESPN
going in the
Cringe at
background.
those.
You cringe.
I cringe at those.
Yeah, I remember somebody had posted in one of the Facebook groups, and they're like, "Hey, did you guys know that IHC has Sports Center now?"
Right. Oh my goodness.
I'll just read the first names on some of these comments. It's the ones that maybe get a little spicy. Maybe I'll just take the names off. I don't know. I don't know if you all want to be exposed or not.
I was gonna say just do them anonymously right now.
You think that's the way to do it?
Yep. And then if they are okay with having their name out there, we can go ahead and let the name fly later.
All right.
Or you can tell us and then just bleep it out.
Yeah, we can tell.
Yeah. Okay. That's
I can tell you all that. So, commenting. So this may be your best one yet. This is why kids will never attend one. Talking about one of those CHM colleges. She said, "Oh, she wrote a long one here. I like long ones. Gives me all kinds of juicy gossip."
You like the juicy goss.
He said, "Wow, Phil brought back a ton of memories of people." I bet that's a wild one.
You
Ooh, that'd
probably
be a
should
good
beat
one to
that
hit.
out.
I probably should. I don't know. I like him to know we're hating on them though. And I can promise you every bit of it is carried out to the letter. She said, a few of the rules that I struggled with. If you went off campus with a mixed group, guys and girls, it had to be a group of 5.
Right.
So that was, I think, like what you were mentioning there, LaDonna.
I'm going to say something, and you can take it out if you want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
They've probably never heard of threesomes.
That cross. I mean, was everybody thinking it? Because I was thinking too.
I was thinking it. I'm sorry. I'm just out there. I'm going to say it.
Don't they understand?
They must never heard of like odd company makeout sessions.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point.
Sorry.
This was
You can take that out if you want to, but I'm just like, I'm saying it.
This was sometimes hard to do, and sometimes you would end up adding a random person that really wasn't a part of your friend group to actually make it a group of 5. If you talk to a person of the opposite sex too much, you would automatically be put on dating rules with that person.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't interested in dating them.
Yeah.
Right.
They took this seriously. There was a brother and sister attending school there that were put on dating rules because they were spending too much time together.
They were put on dating rules?
Oh my
That's what they said. That's what
Are
they said.
you serious, Phil?
That somebody's got a messed up mind, Joe.
Someone is disgusting.
Somebody's messed up.
Hopefully somebody didn't know that they're brother and sister.
How would they not? They know everything about you.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true.
They know what size clothes you wear, so they can make them 3 times bigger for your choir uniform. Speaking from experience in that one.
During chapel, there would be a white glove inspection of your dorm room that was conducted by the dorm dean. If your room was dusty or they found something they did not like, you would get points. If you had so many points in 1 week, I think it was like 3 or 5, you would have restrictions like not being able to leave campus or participate in extracurricular activities. These are just some.
Do they have a gas chamber too? At this school? I'm just curious. Sorry. You can't leave campus. You got to stay in your room.
Yeah.
It's like
getting some weird German vibes here.
Show me your papers.
Yeah.
It's just the ones I remember off the bat. There were so many others, but maybe I've blocked them out. That was
One of the things about that school in particular that she was talking about, that because I had a niece who went there, no jean skirts that had zippers in the front.
Oh,
Yeah.
they were one of those.
That was the BMC, BMI, and BMC, pretty much. More BMI, though. BMI was like, no.
Now, was BMI also the ones where you couldn't have hip pockets?
Yes, you cannot have any pockets in the back. So what you could do, though, is to take off the pockets. Like, that wasn't like, you know how jean fades?
Yeah.
So you had like these actual like printed jean pockets on the butts, but that was okay.
Like reverse taillights on the back side.
Reverse taillights.
I love it.
What's the reason with the no zippers on the
Because that's why men's jeans do.
Yes.
So you can't
Too
look
similar.
like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good
Your
Lord.
zipper could be on the side or in the back.
I remember
And
that.
no writing on your t-shirts because that's right across your breast. So
Right. It brings attention to the chest. Right. So with the jean skirts, I used to go breastises, your breasticles. I used to take the jean skirts and take out the where they used to sew across the front of it. so you could like hide that it was a fly.
This is
I used to do that.
what I want to know is the IQ of the people who run these places extremely low, or are they just like have they just bought in? It's one of the two. They've either bought in and they're
if you're
just
incensed-
guzzling Kool-Aid, or they're just stupid as can be.
They're guzzling Kool-Aid and
Guzzling Kool-Aid.
yes.
This is
Well, here's my question to you, Phil.
Yes.
Isn't there a college in West Virginia that's pretty conservative? Because when I was growing up, the denominational church that I went to, we had an institute in West Virginia.
it's probably the same brand that I used to go to. They used to have.
If you're going to bleep it out, it was in.
Yes, I can
Oh,
believe.
yeah.
I
Dude,
think it's gone now.
Yeah, and
Is it Canaan?
It was ultra conservative.
It's closed down now, and I actually work with a guy that I actually worked with him today, and we were talking about that same school. He went there. He was actually there pretty much the entire time of its existence. He was there, I think,
We should get him on the show.
like 2 years. I think he missed like basically 2 years, and then it like shut down.
How's this man feel about being on a podcast?
He wouldn't do it.
I doubt he would do it, but he has told some funny stories about that. He said that there was this one class. It was supposed to be a Bible class, and the professor brought in the denomination or whatever's handbook, their guidelines. And he said back then, I didn't really think much about it. He said, but the older I get, I'm like, that was really stupid. He's like, oh,
Yes.
yeah.
That is great.
Oh, man.
Wrote in no music with rhythm, and now we know why AWC has had the worst PR singing groups.
No.
Yeah, winner right there.
That is good.
Wrote in, grew up going to an Allegheny Wesleyan Methodist church in Ohio, but escaped before going to their college. I did unfortunately go to their private Christian school. He said my sister went to their college. Said family tried to pressure me into going to AWC because it was close to my hometown, but I chose GBS instead, and some family viewed me as a rebel.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
However, I had a best friend that would come to my house and listen to all my country and pop CDs all weekend. And we also went to a lot of concerts because I guess technically he was, quote, signed out for the weekend.
Oh, so you didn't have to abide by the rules.
Oh, good. Well, once you sign out, I mean,
you're signed out for the weekend. I mean, yeah, no.
I counted the days I was campus one time, and it was well over 75.
Whoa.
Couldn't leave the campus for 75 days. Some rules made it into the handbook because of me, I was told.
Oh, now that's not my kind of girl.
Yeah, I like
Yes.
that one too. I know we got a couple others. Let me pull this up here.
Are you on the Instagram one? I keep getting messages, like notifications of our Instagram account. There's like a bunch of messages on there.
Oh, you guys are on Instagram? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yes,
missed
we
that.
do have one.
Yep.
Okay, this lady here, is that how you say her name?
Yes.
I told her I'd use her comment.
Okay.
She said, found your recent podcasts interesting, especially comparing the handbook of AWC to BMI, which is Bible Missionary Institute.
Yep.
I attended there from 2011 to 2013. Your podcast reminded me of one stupid rule. Of course, being BMC, they had the rule that females had to wear hose.
Right.
While I was there, some girls asked if during the winter we could wear non-sheer solid color tights instead of hose, because this is in, northern Illinois?
Oh, some of the worst, like, snowstorms. Right.
Okay. So they want to know if they could wear tights instead of hose.
Right.
She said, we could, as long as we wore hose underneath.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
Okay. She sent me that to me too. I could not believe that. I could not believe that at all.
She said, logistically, how is that supposed to work? Also, Missy is right. All off-campus dates at BMI require a chaperone. When I was there, assuming it hasn't changed, you had to fill out off-campus date permission slips
Yes.
ahead of your dates. The slips required info such as time frame of date, location, and accompanying chaperone.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes. I remember going on one of
Good
these
night.
dates and I didn't know it was a date.
You didn't know, but did you have to fill out the paperwork?
No, I never filled out the paperwork.
Oh, good Lord.
This guy.
You were the third wheel.
Oh, was it?
No, it was actually a childhood friend of mine. and some guy who wanted to take me to Cracker Barrel. So I ordered like the cheapest thing, chicken and dumplings, because that was like $3.99. I remember seeing it on the menu. This is back when I was 17. Okay. So I'm young. I'm being a rebel. I was not supposed to be dating until I was 18, my dad said, but I went to Bible school when I was young. Anyways, so I'm on this date, and he goes, "You can order whatever you want." And I was like, "Yeah, I did order what I wanted. I want chicken and dumplings." Well, he got offended because I didn't know. He thought I was just being like, I thought he was cheap or something, whatever it is. Like he couldn't afford ticket for
good
whatever it was. And then on the way back, I remember we dropped him off, and like, you were going on a date, right? And I went, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah,
like some information you should have been told up front."
Well, and that's whenever I got the letter from this guy. Did I say his name?
You did. I can take it out.
Okay, so I was gonna say take it out, because he ended up writing me a love letter, telling me how I like to break guys' hearts and stuff like that. Yeah, I was just a player.
You're a heartbreaker.
I know. I
I wonder if he amended his paperwork. He's like, she ordered the cheapest thing on the menu.
I did.
Not going to work out.
$3.99. I remember just how much it was.
I would have been relieved.
I would have too. I'd have been like, would you want to get married maybe tomorrow?
Am I a cheap date now, babe?
Never.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I know my worth.
Some things you left out of BMI, didn't you?
Well, I was working and trying to afford school. Oh, expensive. But
well, I think we've covered about all the bases for today.
Oh, I did have one more.
What you got?
I had one more. I had screenshot it to read it, because you read off the one from Janae.
Yes.
Because I was going to.
By the way, we appreciate the comments.
Yes.
I really enjoyed reading them, and especially when they come in with the volume that they did on this last episode.
Yeah, there were a lot of people messaging it. I love it. Okay, so this
what's the over-under? We start taking bets. What's the over-under on the length of time before somebody has a sermon on that one? Ken, what do you think about it?
Give it a week.
1 week? Oh, okay. All right.
Go ahead, Miss.
This one is, I don't know exactly if I should say who it was or not, but I'll just say it. Message.
Yep,
she said, on the Bible college talk, the college I went to, the dorm mom unlocked my door using her master key and threatened to ground to your dorm room, me, because my twin girl cousin was in my room on my bed talking to me. Also, we had to go off campus in groups of 5, either 5 girls or 2 guys, 3 girls, whatever, or vice versa. Plus, you have dorm devotions every night. That's one thing we had at
dorm devotions every night.
Yeah, every single night. She said I could go on, but no wonder I left after 1 year.
So we've heard, and I don't remember which one she went to.
I think she went. I think so. Where'd she go, Kanan? Because she's.
Ooh, I honestly don't remember.
I was thinking, but I could be wrong. But here's my question. I'm pretty sure that we've covered 3 different Bible colleges with some of the same rules. Do all these clowns get together? We all have a trade show.
They just borrowed the handbook from someone else. Remember how, Kanan, you were talking about someone wanted to start their own holiness group, so they stole the holiness manual off of someone else and just started copying them?
Yeah. Basically copying and pasting.
Right.
I love it.
Although I will say that I think the college in the South, the deep South, far South, I think they have different dating rules than any other of the Bible colleges. They're a little bit more like, they allow them to spend more time on campus together.
Okay.
Than any of the other ones do.
That's good. For some reason, I wouldn't expect it. Sometimes the ones I think will be more lenient are not, and then some of the ones I'm like, you guys will be crazy. Like they'll actually be half level headed. I can never tell, who to trust in this whole scheme of things.
Have you gotten any negative feedback from that post?
I don't think we have. Cannon, you got anything to wrap it up?
No, not that I can think of, man.
LaDonna, is there anything you want to leave them with? Or, like I said, appreciate you coming on, and would love to have you back on to talk some more about some of this stuff.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, I have probably 99 more stories that I think you would enjoy, but
absolutely.
It's been so fun to talk about it. And lest any of my Facebook followers think that I'm berating the CHM. I am not, because I have family that's there and I love them. And there's a lot of people that I love and trust, but there's a lot of ways that they're messing up. And I just pray that someday they see the light.
Yes. I had an ex-CHM pastor. He's still a pastor, but he's not CHM anymore. He told me, he said, I still love the people. He said, I have a lot of friends and stuff still in there. He said, but it's the system. The system is what is so messed up.
Broken.
Yeah, it's the system. But anyways, I like it. I think we'll put that in the books. What do you say, miss?
Yeah, I like it.
Get old Squeak settled down over there?
Yeah, he's laying down in the chair. He's listening. He's a good audience.
Yeah, he plays a role of producer these days.
Sometimes he falls asleep, which means we need to pipe it up a little, but
exactly right. If you want to write us with any kind of comments, you can hit us up Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We also got the email address, hillbillybroadcast@aol.com.
if you'd like to be on the show, just let us know.
Yeah, hey, just work. Yeah, just let us know. And we're always up for more content. We like
right,
it.
Absolutely.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us. I love you. Jesus loves you. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.